On Tuesday, Nigerians were shocked to see a video shared by Chukwuebuka Enekwochi, a track and field athlete representing the country at the Tokyo Olympics, washing his only jersey ahead of the shot put final at the ongoing Summer Games. The now viral clip, which was uploaded on his Instagram page, was accompanied by caption, quote, "When you qualify for Olympics final, but you have only one jersey," end quote. The video confirms speculations that the sport kits provided by the German sportswear and accessories manufacturer Puma had not been distributed to the Nigerian contingent at the Olympics. Earlier, Nigerian athletes had complained of maladministration and logistical mishaps by the country's sports authorities. Before her suspension, Blessing Okagbare had slammed the Athletics Federation of Nigeria, AFN, after 10 of her colleagues were disqualified for not meeting the Olympics doping test requirement. Chimezie Metu, a D-Tigers power forward, also blamed the Nigeria Olympic Committee and Sports Ministry for Nigeria's woeful performance at the ongoing Olympics. But just as all this was sinking in, Puma yesterday announced that it had terminated its 4-year contract with the AFN. Well, to discuss the mismanagement of Nigeria's participation at the Olympics and why Puma decided to pull out of its deal with the AFN, we are being joined by former Minister of Sports, Solomon Dalung, and Vice President of the AFN, Sunday Adeleye. Good morning, gentlemen, and welcome to the show. Well, we are told Minister Dalung would join us in the course of this conversation, but Mr. Adeleye, thank you so much for joining us.
Well, Sunday Adeleye, it's good to have you on the show. Yes, a few days ago, I was coaching you on this same program, and I said that the problem that we had with the athletics integrity unit with regard to doping and the out of competition test, that you had raised an alarm as far back as March or April 2020, but nobody listened to you. And now we also have this Puma kits controversy. Now, all of you involved in this Athletics Federation of Nigeria, don't you sometimes feel ashamed or guilty that because of the conflict, factional conflict, you have misled Nigeria and you have created the kind of embarrassment that we're seeing in Tokyo Olympics at this time? You may say, well, you served notice that the problems will come, but all of you, I think, are guilty. And I have been saying that if it is possible to sanction some of you, Nigeria should do that. What's your response?
Well, thank you very much, Doctor. You see, I really appreciate coming on your program this morning to clear the airwaves. Well, the problem is not the federation, it's not the Athletics Federation of Nigeria. A lot of people are getting it actually wrong because the problem is the ministry and the Minister of Youth and Sport. We have issues as a board, as a federation, but it has never gotten to this level. No federation in Nigeria today that has no problem, one or the other, where you have board members having issues, but it has never gotten to this level. But the Minister of Sport has taken side, even against all odds, even when the court, the Federal High Court of Nigeria, had said he should stay away from the business of athletics. He appealed that judgment, and then the Court of Appeal in Abuja also said he should stay away. But the man is resolute, and he said he's going to destroy some certain people because he has a problem with them. So when it comes like that, we're trying to work. Okay, there was a warning sign where I came out to say this is going to happen, and he said no, he's going to do whatever he wants to do. What do? We came out on this issue of Puma. We brought the matter up again. His head bent. He came out, and the ministry came out publicly to say they were not going to use the kits. So what do? How can we be sanctioned? We have only tried our own best to better athletics in Nigeria, to promote. We're being patriotic, but I think the man is not a patriotic Nigerian, and that is why we're here. Because if he's a patriotic Nigerian, he will at least respect these judgments from the Federal High Court and then from the Court of Appeal.
Oh, those are damning allegations against the sports minister. But Mr. Adeleye, stay with us. I hear that the former sports minister, Solomon Dalung, has now joined us. Good morning, Mr. Dalung. Thank you for joining us on the morning show.
Good morning, Nigerians.
Great. And so I'm sure you've been following all of this drama and embarrassment that has been happening so far. I don't know if you heard Mr. Adeleye blame the Minister of Sports squarely for what has happened. But you were once a minister in the same position. What do you think the problem is here? Do you also blame the Minister of Sports?
Well, leadership is about taking responsibilities.
Hello? Go ahead, we can hear you, Mr. Dalung.
Hello?
Go ahead, we can hear you.
Yes. Leadership is about taking responsibilities. And when things go wrong, somebody has to be responsible. The entire drama of shame is unavoidable. But the national interest was here sacrificed for personal interest. And this is what has brought this state of shame the country found itself. Because, I mean, one should be able to provide the leadership. And the leader here is the minister. So he shouldn't have gone to the level of condescending down to the arena to join issues with people he is supposed to be supervised. When I came in office, I inherited a contract of kitting Team Nigeria by a big company in China. I did not discontinue the contract. I did not go into it, but rather I consolidated on it and ensured that at the end of the day, the contract was delivered. So the crisis in AFN is even not the issue. The main issue is that the national federations were dissolved a month to Olympics, therefore disbanding all those officials who had been training the athletes for over 2 years or 3 years, and then bringing on board another new set of people. So where we found ourselves is expected, because there is no commander-in-chief that will disband a general on the eve of an attack of an enemy and expected to win the war. So to me, I think the whole thing was mismanaged. Personal interest was allowed to supersede national interest.
All right. Thank you so much, Mr. Dalung. But I'd like to go back to Vice President of the AFN, Sunday Adeleye. Number one, I'd like to ask. The minister said you guys, your faction, and what faction are you? Because I know the AFN is factionalized now.
It's in the Guso faction.
It's in the Guso faction. And your faction went to sign this Puma deal without the knowledge of anybody. And the deal is shrouded in a lot of secrecy. Explain that to me. And I also want to ask, which bunch of, you know, what are they called now, officials, shamefully went to collect the phones that belongs to our athletes? Which bunch of officials did that? That very shameful act.
You don't know about that.
Can you tell us that?
Well, first of all, I want to clarify this. I have document. This is a document where the Secretary General of the Athletics Federation of Nigeria, a staff of the Ministry of Youth and Sport, signed, gave us a mandate to source for sponsorship. These are documents here, agreement. And I want to bring it here. This is another document where the president of the federation signed, the representative of Dynamic Sporting Solutions signed. Here again is the signature of the Secretary General of the Federal Ministry of Youth and Sport, dated 2018, 15th September 2018. We have documents that even said the government, the minister should give us a waiver to clear this document, to clear the shipments. Before this day, before the agreement was signed, the then permanent secretary of the Federal Ministry of Youth and Sport was informed, was aware. Documents were transmitted to him to join us to sign this agreement, for him to witness, because he is not a party to it. But unfortunately, then the Honorable Minister was out of office. So the permanent secretary was in charge of the ministry, and he said he's very busy at the moment, and he wished us well, and for us to go ahead and do the right thing. And he really thanked us for bringing this kind of thing to Nigeria. He even came out and said clearly that there is a circular from the former chief of staff, may he so rest in peace, where they said the parastatals should go and look for sponsors, should look for funding for even organizations or parastatals, even like for us, and he congratulated us. So if the minister is saying he's not aware, that is a white lie. I want to say it here, and that is not true. The ministry is aware, because if the Secretary General, the staff of the ministry signed, so of course the ministry cannot deny that they are not aware of the contract. Going by the fact of the phone collection, after I raised the alarm on your program, they actually rushed back to do damage control and said they are writing, no, that they only wanted to get the approval of the IOC to know if the phones should be given to the athlete, or since they are not going to compete, or they should take it back. The same video that came out that Chukwuebuka posted, thank God it was a video. And the guy tweeted again that he thanked the minister for his support. $1,000 was given to the guy to take down the video. So what are we doing? What are we hiding? What are we covering?
Anyway, very quickly, I think in a sense, the story out there is that the ministry later came back to your faction. I said that you are in the Guso faction. I hope I'm correct in that regard. And that, the kits were collected and later sent to Tokyo. But when the kits got there, nobody gave out the kits to the athletes, which is what we find shocking and surprising. And it's one of the reasons why I kept saying that people have to be sanctioned, because this kind of sabotage must not be allowed. I would like to come back to you, former Minister Dalung. I see, you are very intentional with this interview. You're wearing your famous, regalia, and I saw a throw pillow beside you, having your picture and that of the president. So you are not joking at all. But as somebody who has been Minister of Sports, what do you think the problem really is? Because a few days ago, Sunday Dare was talking about setting up sports development, taking a new look at infrastructure and doing something about what he calls post-industrial policy. I mean, are these great novel ideas that we should be talking about? What is really the problem? Is it the ministry? Is it the federations? Is it individual ego?
I think it's a combination of both, but most especially, it's a lack of patriotic political will to consolidate on the gains of what you inherited when you come into power. I mean, when I came in as a minister, I only continued from where my predecessors ended. And I did my best to make sure that I did not unsettle anything. But I also want to state here clearly that when we went to Rio in 2016, I personally borrowed the sum of 50 million naira from my friend, Senator Ifeanyi Uba, to calm Team Nigeria before going to Rio. And that when we went to Rio, it was 4 days into Olympics that the first tranche of the budget for Olympics was released, meaning that I traveled to Rio with my personal funds. That was because Nigeria was in recession. Therefore, if I had now promoted my personal ego and tried to overproject it, I mean, the show of shame in Rio would have even been more monumental than what we are dealing with now. So we built on the gains of 2016 and tested our efforts in Commonwealth Games, Youth Olympics, African Games, and Nigeria did very well. Now, let me come back to the issue of this kit that is in controversy. It was under my watch and under the democratization policy that the national federations were asked to go and source for sponsors and funding so as they can be able to kit the federation, because the government hasn't enough money to cover that aspect. So the whole idea started under me. The first agreement was signed in 2018 while I was a minister. In 2019, when it was finally consolidated, I was already out of office and the permanent secretary was holding forth. The permanent secretary also briefed me, even when I was in office, and to tell me that the gains of my initiative was reaping fruits. So I think what actually played out here, it is a war versus personal ego and national interest. And national interest lost the war woefully. Personal ego won, and won triumphantly in Tokyo. So Nigeria is back to square one, unfortunately.
Okay.
Let me come to you, Mr. Adeleye. Initially, you were asking, and I do hope that was a rhetoric question, asking why you should be sanctioned. Is it that you do not take any responsibility at all in all of this that has happened? And specifically, let's talk about the mandatory out-of-competition tests that the athletes should have taken. How do you justify that? How did that slip through the cracks?
Well, I think in accordance to the ideology of the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, I think we should be even given award of a medal of award, because we are patriotic Nigerians working with instruction, going out to say, let us bring in investors to invest in our country, to invest in our sport, so that that burden will be taken away from government. So I think from the angle of sanction, yes, I agree for sanction to come for the erring party, which of course is the Ministry of Youth and Sport. Like I've always said, there is need for total overhauling of that Ministry of Youth and Sport. A whole lot of things are happening and Nigerians don't even know. So, but I think by this will bring out some kind of revelation, and the government should look into that ministry, and we need a shake-up there, because that is a very sensitive ministry that takes care of the youth and, of course, creates a lot of window of opportunity for the youth. And if that sector is killed, like with what is happening right now, then I think there is a problem for the future of the youth. And now, going to the angle of the AIU matter, a whole lot of things are still happening that the ministry is still hiding. They should come out clean and let Nigerians know. Let Nigerians know. If people need to help them, they need to know the truth and help them. But if you keep hiding these things, we'll keep making a lot of blunders. You see, the ministry is trying to is like an elephant, it's like a hunter that has hunted elephant and is still looking for grass cutter to carry. For example, you're looking at the Nigerian Olympic Committee. The ministry have absorbed the Nigerian Olympic Committee into themselves and they've taken over the functions of the Nigerian Olympic Committee. That's a very big problem. The Nigerian, that's the NADO, the body responsible for the anti-doping, for tests and all those things, the ministry have also absorbed them. So you cannot get results. They should be independent and be allowed to work freely. But most of them are staffs of the ministry, so even when funds come, they can't do anything. The funds are still taken back by the same ministry because they see that sector as, oh, okay, if you're talking about anti-doping, it's not a common thing. Oh, these athletes get tested when they go out, so why would we spend so much money to buy samples and so on and so forth? So, you know, it's a really big problem. And then if we don't control this thing, more problems are coming in the nearest future. And I'll keep saying it.
Okay. Okay, real quickly, I'd like to come back to you, Minister Dalung. I've been meaning to ask you, and it has taken me 4 years to get a chance to ask you this. What happened to our under-23 Olympic team on the road to Rio? That their fees were not paid, they couldn't board a flight, and it took a Japanese businessman, a plastic surgeon, that finally gave us $390,000 for winning bronze in that Olympic in 2016, Kazuya Takasu, to come to our aid. It was just like what we are discussing today. You remember how the team was stranded in Atlanta, that under-23 football team. What happened? I'd like to know from you, sir.
Well, maybe quickly before I take that, let me talk about this AIU testing. You see, before I left office, we had established Nigeria Anti-Doping Committee, and we signed an agreement of Nigerians to take over the Anti-Doping Committee and the testing of our athletes so as to avoid this embarrassment. We also participated in so many conferences by law. As at the time I left office, we were not deficient in testing because the provisions of Section 17 of that article is very, very clear. And we had cured that with the establishment of Nigeria Anti-Doping Committee. But sadly, what later turned out was that the Ministry of Youth and Sports annexed this organization and sort of impeded actions. This resulted into this confusion where our athletes who did not meet the requirement of participation were ferried to Tokyo and they were disqualified. Back to the issue you asked me. Today, let me state this clearly because my story was not given the opportunity to be heard. And that was why I kept complaining when I left office, that the press screened every action of mine. But immediately I left office, they did not do same with anybody who occupied the office after me. And I was tempted to think that because my face did not look good to the Nigerian media, or maybe because of the khaki, every aspect of my action, but they went quiet after I left office. You see, the team was not stranded in neither Atlanta or in Rio. When my attention was drawn that the team was stranded in Atlanta, they could not move to Rio, I immediately swung into action because before the team could leave Nigeria for camping, the Nigerian Football Federation briefed me a sponsor who was going to be responsible for the flight of the team from Nigeria to their camping in Atlanta and from Atlanta to Rio. And then suddenly they came up that the team was stranded. And I was not even communicated, but they went on Twitter to inform the world that the team was stranded. I immediately got to them. They said we should mobilize $150,000 to charter an aircraft. I mobilized that, and I said, okay, I was ready with 150,000. How do we get the money across to you? And they said I could only send money to an accredited agent of NFA who will charter the aircraft. And I said, no. Can we charter an aircraft for you guys? They said no. So I got another Nigerian who said, okay, he was going to intervene to provide an aircraft. He provided an aircraft. They rejected it that it was small. While this was going on, the vice president was also informed. He mobilized another fund and wanted to charter an aircraft. They said the money must be sent to them cash through their agent instead of chartering an aircraft. So this was what went on that was misrepresented, that they were stranded. For the Japanese philanthropists who came in, the Japanese philanthropists did not come in to help or augment anything. He was passionate about the performance of the team and promised them that if they do well, he was going to reward their performance. And of course, when they got a bronze, he gave them 350,000, which government wanted to invite people in the State House, and I told them no, the money did not belong to government. It was a direct gift to the players. I handed over the money to the players, and they shared it. So there was indeed no scandal at all, but there was a misrepresentation of the situation.
Well, former minister.
The press were quite eager about whatever happened.
Well, former minister, your point is very clear, but I guess more or less all that is in the past now. I wanted you to talk about that throw pillow beside you, showing you and President Buhari, many months after you left office. But let me go to Sunday Adeleye. The Puma, the cancellation of the Puma contract, $2.7 million. Sunday Adeleye, are you still with us? Okay, yes. What are the implications?
Yeah, I'm here. I can hear you, yeah.
Puma is quoting certain clauses of the agreement. Is Puma likely to sue for damages on the basis of that? And what really are the terms of the contract? Because there are allegations that, that contract was shrouded in secrecy. So these are some of the points we would like you to address. And then some people have said that, okay, this Puma kit that we're even talking about got to, Tokyo rather late, was rejected by the ministry. That Ibrahim Gusso, your friend and colleague, kept these kits in his garage for a very long time. Is that the appropriate place to keep kits belonging to the Athletics Federation of Nigeria? Quickly.
Well, that is not true. The Athletics Federation of Nigeria, headed by Honorable Ibrahim Shehu Gusso, has been barred from using the facilities in the stadium. That is the office that is supposed to be our office. So, of course, we must continue to work. We must continue to run the affairs of AFN as the elected board members. So we have a store, a warehouse, and an office that we run. So because, of course, the day-to-day activities of the AFN must go on. And according to the constitution of AFN, it's not cast in stone that our office must only be situated inside the stadium. And even before now, we've actually said that we needed to move because of our independence so that we're able to run this business the way it should be. And the contract is a non-disclosure contract in nature. Thank God you have a former minister around today. I don't know if the former minister has seen any contract of any federation before, or where it stated that we must they bring the contract to the ministry or to the minister or hand over to the minister. The minister is not a party to the contract. The contract is between Puma and Athletics Federation of Nigeria. And then, of course, if some people feel there's a document here where it's stated that the period of the contract, I don't know if you have this document, if you have seen it before. It says here, it's a document that we hereby want to inform you that the total value of shipment measured in retail price you get in the period from September 1st, 2019 to December 31st, 2020 is approximate of 2.7 million US dollars. So, when you hear such things, if you don't read, if you're not learned, when you hear these kind of figures, you think that there is one money somewhere, because we see rumor going around that, $2.76 million was paid to Sunday Adeleye or to Guso or Sunday Adeleye's personal account and so on and so forth. These are the value of material we'll get as a federation in terms of, they said, in retail price. Every shirt, every shoe has a price, a retail price. So if you put them together for the period of this years, we have that is what amounted to that 2.76 million US dollars. So, of course, Puma, before now, we warned again that this thing may lead to litigation, that we advise, and we wrote to all different quotas, of course, arms of government. We've written to the chief of staff, to the federation, we've wrote to the attorney general, we've written to the police, we've written to different departments that, look, this thing, even the Ministry of Finance, that, look, they should intervene. No matter what, I think we should come back home and resolve our crisis. But if we don't do that, we are sure that Puma will go to court on this matter. So we're still expecting correspondence from Puma, which, of course, yesterday I was actually contacted by them, and then they said they are sending in some documents from their legal department. So we're waiting to see that. But, of course, we've sounded warning even to the minister. We told him, we wrote letters to him telling him of the implication of him saying that we're not going to use the Puma kits. But, of course, this is a big setback for Nigeria, because it's not going to only affect AFN right now. Other companies out there will not want to do any business with Nigeria when it comes to support of sports, because they will say Nigeria is not a respecter of contract or agreements.
To Mr. Former Minister Dalung, you have you have been quoted to say that the Sunday Dare-led Ministry of Sport is inventing crisis to cover up their lack of preparedness for the Olympics. But some will say you are to blame for the current crisis in the sports ministry in Nigeria, because the squabbles in the Athletics Federation of Nigeria started under your watch, and Mr. Dare only inherited them. How do you respond to this?
Well, the statement is even taken out of context. What I said was that that Nigeria, for the ministry to dissolve the national federations a month to Olympics is an indication that we are not prepared for Olympics. Now back to the issue of the crisis. Crisis is part and parcel of human existence. The management of the crisis is what determines leadership. I inherited so many crises in the Nigerian Football Federation, in Nigerian Taekwondo Federation, in Nigerian Gymnastics Federation, in the Athletic Federation, in the Nigerian Youth Council, in the Nigerian Boy Scout. And I was able to resolve the council in the Boy Scout. We were suspended for over 15 years. I resolved that one. I resolved the crisis of the National Youth Council. I resolved the crisis of the Nigerian Taekwondo Federation. I resolved the crisis of the Athletics Federation. That of the basketball, we were also about resolving it before I left office, but they were stable and they gave us results. So there will be no time that there will be no crisis in any human society. Even America today is dealing with crisis of gun battle. Afghanistan is in crisis with the Taliban. Nigeria is in crisis. So there is no situation, there will be no crisis. But the ability of leadership to deal with crisis and produce results is what we are talking about. Then back to this contract of non-disclosure, which Sunday Adeleye referred to me.
Former Minister, yes, if you could just make that point in 30 seconds. We've run out of time. Hello?
Okay, yes. Now, contracts of kits usually are of non-disclosure. For all the 3.5 years that I was a minister, I have never seen any paper about it. I'm only briefed about it by the legal department. So the ministry has nothing much to do about such contracts. They are within the jurisdiction of national federations. They source for their fundings for cheating. They sign such contracts. We only supervise.
Anyway, thank you very much, but I'm not too sure that you've been able to answer the question about how your tenure precipitated the crisis that Sunday Dare and others are trying to deal with. But maybe that's a matter for further reflection for you after the program. And Sunday Adeleye, we would have loved to talk also about Alpha, a company called Alpha, which seemed to have replaced, Puma in terms of the procurement of kits. But apparently, we don't have enough time. So we thank both of you, gentlemen, for joining us on the morning show. Thank you very much indeed.